Hi everyone, in today's video I'll be talking about the latest character that was just released in the game, Sagittarius Seiya. I'll be doing a review of how good he is, some of the formation ideas of how and also how you can best utilize him in the game. I will tell you upfront that he is definitely a tier 0 character, a very worthwhile character to get. So in this event, please try to, use all of your diamonds to get your arrows and try to get as many copies as possible. He is definitely worth the investment and he will be in your team for a very long time. So definitely a character to watch out for. So yeah, so now let's go straight into it on why he is such a good character. Let's start off with his ultimate. His ultimate deals damage to everyone, and it is 450% of attack, which is absolutely amazing. He has really high attacking stats already, and 450% is one of the highest scaling factor that you can see in the game. And this is down to every single enemy. So this is absolutely amazing. You can literally wipe out the entire enemy lineup with just one or two hits of this ultimate. So very, very powerful. Now, because it's so good, there is a bit of a negative downside to it, which is that in order for him to release this ultimate, he will need to charge for 4 seconds. So during that time, if the enemy has any kind of control effect to interrupt you, then unfortunately you won't be able to release the ultimate. But you do still retain 5,000 Cosmo, even if that does happen. Now, for those of you who don't know, you need 8,000 Cosmo in order to release an ultimate, I believe. So, you are actually recovering more than half even when you're interrupted. But still, that is one downside to Sagittarius Seiya. You can actually compensate for this for with his clothes. Later on, I'll talk about that. But for the time being, just take him to your head that there's this downside effect for his ultimate. Next, we go to a looping skill, which is Pegasus Meteor Punch. And basically, this just attacks one enemy. And when you kind of hit the same enemy again with this exact same skill, you deal an extra 50% likelihood of critical damage. And also, this allows Sagittarius Seiya to heal a bit of his own HP. So this, I guess, is kind of his soft healing effect for you to make him last a bit longer in the battle. Next, we have Pegasus Strike. This is his probably one of the reason why you really want him on your team is that at the beginning of the game he is able to release this straight away. So this is the first skill that will be launched. It will deal damage to everyone and knock them down for 2 seconds. And this is during this time you also are immune to any control or interruption, so they can't really interrupt you this. And later on, when you actually level up to its highest level, it also reduced the defense of those people who are knocked down, and also increase the time of you knocking them down for 2.5 seconds. So very powerful ability. And the reason why it's so good is that when you get the likes of Across Camus, who also at level 30 of his clothes is able to freeze everyone, etc. So they give you massive um, heads up in the kind of the race for Cosmo, because normally you want to release your ultimate before other people do. So if you're able to knock them down or freeze them, however, basically interrupt them for a good 2-3 seconds at the start of the battle, that gives you a heads up advantage to let you get ahead of them in your Cosmo and therefore likelihood of releasing your ultimates first. So because of that, this is actually really powerful. And this one, unlike a Crash Canvas, where you need level 30 in order for you to do this skill, Sagittarius Seiya is able to do this straight off. So that's very nice. So even if you are not investing a huge amount of resource into Sagittarius Seiya, you are able to kind of help you to get a head start in this Cosmo race straight away, just with this ability. Not to mention, this is done, you actually deal damage to everyone as well. I'll actually talk later on one of the most meta strategy for utilizing such say as actually try to just wipe out the entire enemy within the first 20 seconds of the battle. And this plays a very important factor into that as well. So very, very useful skill. In terms of priority, this is also a lot faster than a lot of the skills. For example, you're able to release this before a crash canvas frees you. So even though a crash canvas will still be able to freeze you afterwards for the start of the battle, but you're also able to deal this damage to all of the opponents straight away and knock them down. So crash canvas freezing wouldn't come into effect till 2 seconds later, etc. This is also faster than Krishna's shield, I believe. So this is actually very good. Basically, you actually have a huge priority even out of all of the skills that would really be active straight away at the start of the battle. Next, we also have Hopeful Sagittarius. Also a very, very good skill in my opinion. So basically what this one says is that for every single buff that you get extra attack point boost by 6%, and this can be overlaid by 5 layers. You also have a bit later on, which is that for every single buff, you also gain Cosmos increase in speed as well. So that's also very nice. And also you have a likelihood of ignoring the opponent's armor. So this is very nice. And what you would also see later on when I talk about formation is that this makes him very good synergy with a lot of characters, support character who is able to grant you buffs, etc. So very good skill, very good passive skill in my opinion. There's also a bit of a funny one, which is when he goes into battle with Libra Shuru, Leo, Iki, Acres Hugo, and Virgo Shun, you are able to actually have a 5 different element knights because in this case, Sagittarius Seiya become light uh, knight instead of his usual fire knights. However, some of those cards are not even released, and they're all quite expensive for you to level up. So a lot of time, I don't actually see you actually utilize this advantage or this part of the skill. You normally just use Hopeful Searchers for the fact that it's able to give you a massive buff whenever you get a buff, and also allow you to increase Cosmo even faster. All right, now let's talk about his clothes, which is also very important. The first two is basically saying that when you release your Pegasus charge, you also gain 500% attacking shot for 6 seconds. So remember, Pegasus charge. Okay, there's a weird thing with translation, but Pegasus charge is a Pegasus strike, which is saying that you release at the start of the battle. So basically, what this means is at the start of battle, you immediately have a 500% attack shield for 6 seconds. And what you can actually then see is this kind of allows you to actually sometimes play Sagittarius Seiya in front row, even though you are not actually a protector knight or have high defense. But because you're able to get a shield, a massive shield for the first 6 seconds, and like I said earlier, a lot of time the strategy with Sagittarius Seiya is actually you try to finish off the battle in the first 15-20 seconds anyway. You are actually able to utilize him up front. And when you actually place him up front, you gain. Remember, you gain Cosmo whenever you are hit by the enemy as well. So when you're up front, basically you'll see Protector Knights tend to get their Cosmo charge up faster and therefore release Ultima faster because they're getting attacked all the time by enemies' normal attack. So this is a good way for you to place him up front so that you are able to release your Ultima faster. And then that quite nicely leads up to the next two level of his clothes, which is very important. One is that both of them is allowing you to use his ultimate instantly for the first number of uses in the battle. So remember, Golden Arrow, it takes 4 seconds for you to charge up and release it. If you are interrupted during that time, then unfortunately you won't be able to use the ultimate. You retain the Cosmo, but you won't be able to use it. But what this close does is actually it allows you to release them instantly on either the first time or even for the first 3 times when you level it all the way up to the max. Now, I definitely recommend you to definitely get it at least to level 20 of the close so that you're able to release it instantly on the first use. I don't ever think you would, if you have such a say, you normally try to close off the battle fairly soon. So I, first of all, don't think you will ever need more than 3 ultimates in one battle. If it's more than 3 ultimate, and you still haven't, that battle is pretty much decided by that point already. Either you have already wiped out a lot of enemy and therefore you're gonna win anyway, or that clearly you're not gonna win the battle because you can't even kill anyone off in the first 3 ultimates. So 3 ultimates, releasing them instantly is definitely more than enough for any battles. If you're on budget, I would say level 20 of the close at least, because at least you will be able to do it first, and that gives you a huge advantage early on in the battle. If you do obviously have a lot of resource, lots of God's blood, and try to get it all the way to level 30, it will help as well. Then we go to his Constellation. Basically, what his Constellation does is that when the combat begins, you start to recharge extra Cosmo per second. And also, when you are all 9 points, 9 star point, you also permanently increase your attack speed. Sorry, your normal attack, no normal attack, just your attack stats by 2.5% per second as well. So very beneficial. Definitely try to get at least the first level, which is, so that you are getting this Cosmo boost. That would be very important. That really make sure you release your ultimate first ahead of everyone. And if you use this in conjunction with your close, so that you're able to release your golden arrow instantly. And on top of that, at the start of the battle, you are able to do damage to everyone anyway. This combination, like just Sagittarius Seiya's own toolkit by themselves, skill kit by themselves, is already make it very deadly. Like having Sagittarius Seiya normally guarantees you start the battle, deal lots of damage, and you release the ultimate first, and you do lots of damage. So you kind of start the battle, with all of your enemy at half health in some sense. So super super nice. Definitely try to unlock at least the first level of Constellation. If you have the resources to get to all 9 star point or destiny points, definitely do that as well. As I said, increasing attacks by 2.5 per second is also very good. Although, with Sagittarius Seiya, we try to close the battle quickly, so maybe the overall attack increase is not so much, but still, it does help in the early on in the game, especially with the 600 Cosmo increase as well. Now let's talk about some formation ideas for Sagittarius Seiya. There's normally two main things that you want to do when you build a team around him. One is you want to grant as much buff as possible to him, because with his hopeful Sagittarius skill, every single buff that you grant is going to give him an extra bonus in attack. So that's very useful. The second thing you want to do is you want to close out the battle as soon as possible. Because Sagittarius get quite a bit weaker after the release of first three ultimate, because he then needs to charge up for his ultimate, and therefore he can be interrupted, etc. So you really want to close off the game within the first 20-30 seconds. Um, as a result, this kind of shapes of how you want to build a team. Now, one thing I will also call out is that when you have his armor leveled up, Sagittarius can actually be put up front, because when he releases his opening skill, Pegasus Charge, he will then be able to get a shield for a few seconds. Now, don't underestimate this shield for just a few seconds. Like I said, a lot of time when you actually bring out Sagittarius, you want to close off the game in the first 20-30 seconds as well. So having this starting shield actually helps a lot of the time, because normally that's when you will take the most damage, and after those first few seconds, hopefully you should have already wiped out, let's say, half of their team, and therefore you should receive a lot less damage as well. So therefore, it's definitely viable option if you have his armor leveled up to put him up front. Now, of course, you kind of have to have a think in your head how long the battle will go on. If you think the battle will go on for a bit longer than usual, i.e., you're not able to kill off all of the enemy straight away, then maybe upfront is not the best choice. So this is somewhat situational. Okay, now let's start off with a few knights who have very good synergy with Seiya. Like I said, you normally want to grant as much buff as possible. So a standout candidate would be Liverdoco. Liverdoco grants 4 buffs to Sagittarius Seiya, and they're all attack-based buffs. Critical hit, attacking speed, etc. So that's very good. Also, he is actually able to somewhat support Sagittarius if you want to put him up front as well, through his ability to heal up the other knights in his armor. So, that's also a very good option. Another few good one could be Mermaid Tetris, who link up with the knight with the highest attack. So in most of the time, that will be Sagittarius Seiya. Also, you get Hound Asterion, Virgo Shun, etc., all granting buffs and therefore have good synergy with Sagittarius Seiya. Now, out of all of this, Virgo Shun, in my opinion, is a devastating pairing with Sagittarius for the reason not only that he grants buff, but also he has a good synergy in terms of the opening attack. Because when Virgo Shun has level 30 of his armor, he's also able to release his ultimate at the start of the game. And that deals damage to everyone, significant amount of damage, in fact, and also grants buffs and also debuffs. So that is very useful because you kind of don't have two knights or deal massive amount of damage at the start of the game, and then a lot of time, you kind of start off the battle with 50% health advantage already. So that is absolutely devastating. Um, and then you can also go for a really fun build if you want to go down to that direction, which is bring in Potomi. Now, Potomi also have an opening effect or opening skill where he deal damage, like high amount of damage to two enemy, and also mark them with a status effect so that when they get hit, they get extra damage as well. So that's actually really fun because what happens is if you bring all three of them together, there's a good chance you'll be able to wipe out the enemies, at least one or two of the enemies straight away, if they're not high enough level. So a lot of time when the enemy try to bring an evil Sega or some assassin knights, etc., this fun build can actually wipe them out. So very very good. If this is actually the direction you want to go, you realize you have three knights of different colors already. So you really want to go for rainbow formation. So you need to bring a water knight. So you can bring mermaid Tetas, who I said before have good synergy. But another very good character to bring would be Desmos. So Desmos is able to do quite a few things. So first of all, even though Desmos doesn't have an opening attack, he's still a damage dealer, and he deals damage to three enemies. Now, if you think about this, when you have three knights that all do a massive amount of opening attack, there's a high chance that you're able to wipe out one or two already through the first round, first few minutes, first few seconds. So by the time Desmos releases ultimate, he attack three enemies, but maybe the enemy only have three knights at that point. So if that's the case, you essentially attack everyone. So this what makes it good is that your formation is actually position proof. So you don't actually need to position your knights in a particular way, to counter opponents. And that makes it really useful for a defensive position because no matter how your opponent want to play around with positioning, it doesn't really affect you much. The second thing Desmos is able to bring is that his reduction in enemies' cosmo gaining speed. Because once again, if you are not able to kill off the enemy in the first few seconds with your opening effect, then you really want to make sure you get the first hit in terms of your ultimates. So you definitely want to release your ultimate before them. And once again, if you look at all of your knights here, they're all damage dealer. If they release their ultimates along with their opening effect, good chance that you're able to kill off the enemy that way. So you definitely want to do that, and Desmos helps you to do that because he reduced the enemy's cosmo gaining speed. So kind of helps you to release your ultimate before them. Um, Another thing is this is kind of playing around with your last slot, which is because you need a light and dark night. So a lot of the time, depending on like any choice is fine to be honest, because your evil Sega is also have good synergy, deal a lot of damage up front in the first few seconds, so that's good. Or you can also bring your Gemini Sega, who being a warrior knight, you're able to place up front and kind of give you a bit of a more defensive boost. And also his ultimate, not ultimate, he has a skill which release meteorites at around 14 to I think like 20 or 30 seconds, between somewhere between that, depending on whether you leveled up his armor. So that also do a lot of damage and help you to kind of make sure you close off the game by that point. So Gemini Sega is also a very good choice. But Light and Dark um, color knights are normally a bit weaker purely because they're harder to get, so they're normally at a lower star level. So they may not actually last too well up front. And that's what makes it interesting is actually then bring Desmos up front. Because even though Desmos is quite fragile, what happens is when you kill off an enemy, you are able to boost up his attack and defense and also make him recover HP. And like I said, when you release three different opening skills at the start of the game, there's a good chance you're able to kill off one enemy. Or even if you don't do it, then there's a high chance you're able to kill them off after your first round of ultimate. So this basically just means that your Desmos need to survive long enough till your first ultimate, And then as soon as that happens, he recharges his HP, he gets buffed, so it makes him a lot more steady and viable up front. And because Desmos already has this ability to reduce enemies' cosmo gaining speed, a lot of time you won't take much ultimate, so you will just be suffering from normal attacks from the first few times. So there's a good chance you're able to survive with that as well. And not to mention, if you do manage to kill someone off straight away, you get a 20% buff in defense already. So definitely a viable option up front. So yeah, so this is actually a really fun build. As you can see, you are going for pretty much ultra high damage attack. They all deal massive amounts of damage, and you are able to just close out the game instantly after the first few seconds. So very good build and very fun build. Now I know a lot of people probably don't have Potomi or good light and dark and knight leveled up to a high ranking star level, so maybe you don't actually want to go for rainbow formation. So in which case I would then suggest you to go for fire and earth formation. So the idea here is still kind of similar. So you want to bring a few knights that is able to help you to deal as much damage as possible up front. So if we talk, let's start off with the earth element. So what you can do is a few good options would be, well, to be honest, they're all very good options. You can't really go wrong with the fire and earth spell in general, because if we talk about any of them, Taurus at the Baron locks onto an enemy with the lowest health. That helps you to kill off an enemy as soon as possible. This is probably not the best choice, just in case, with your first round of opening skills, you're already wiping out the enemy with the lowest health. So maybe Taurus at the Baron is not the most useful. But then if we talk about Hound Asterion is, like I said, granting buff, but you also have Sirius. Sirius also grants everyone a starting Cosmo boost that once again helps you to release your ultimate first. So if you have your opening skills and then also your first round of ultimate, that is very powerful and therefore high chance of you killing off the enemy that way. So a lot of good options on the earth front. And on the fire front, there are also a lot of good options. You have Sagittarius. What Sagittarius does is kind of ensures you definitely kills off enemy, because what happens is you have so first of all, Sagittarius is normally always the first one to release his ultimate because he just charges up so much faster than everyone else. um, when you have all of your opening effects, you severely weaken the enemy. So even if you are not able to kill them off, you are able to reduce them to at least less than 50% of their health with your two opening effects. Then you have Sagittarius. Sagittarius Ultimate is very hard for Sagittarius Ultimate to not deal more than 50% damage to someone if you are positioning correctly. So this is absolutely ensures you are able to kill off at least someone at the start of the game. So going into the battle of 5 against 4, and then you can also bring in Leo. What Leo does is kind of makes sure that when an enemy is killed off, such as when you bring Sagittarius on, you ensure an enemy is killed off, then you are able to grant attacking buff to everyone in the team permanently. And once again, when you attack it get increased, Sagittarius get even stronger. So also very good synergy there. Or you can also bring Iris Moon. Iris Moon is just a good character in general. You can't really go wrong with bringing him. So once again, I love good options in the fire front. So you can really pick a mix between your fire and earth knights. Something I have seen a lot of times in the Chinese version of the game. So remember, once again, there are quite a few, I think like at least 6 months or 1 year ahead of the international release. So I still see Sagittarius Seiya get played a lot. Those three are tend to be a core team because you're able to wipe out, guarantee at least one enemy and start the battle. A lot of the good pairings I see is normally involving also them bringing Sirius and maybe Hound Asterion if you want to go for a bit more of a protection. I also see people bring in Krishna to further increase your defensive boost at the start again to ensure you are able to make your Sagittarius, both Sagittarius and Virgo Shun, kind of live through till the first release of the ultimate. So there are loads of really good options here. You can also, like I said, go for more offensive build with Leo, so that when an enemy is killed off, you increase everyone's attack. So like I said, lots of good options with Fire and Earth Knight. You can't really go wrong. Just pick and mix depending on the situation and depending on which knights you actually have available.